Literally every direct report I had was like, there's no way you can't do this. We can't do this. How about first? And if this thing implodes, if this turns out to have been a terrible idea, it's my name on the line. There is nothing you can't get through. There's nothing you can't solve. If you have strengthened the muscle of those 4 agreements, there are still ties amongst that group of people that I don't think will ever be broken because of that work.
Joining me is Dr. Amanda Lynne Smith. Amanda is a heart-led, dynamic, and visionary C-suite executive with 25 years of expertise, spanning education management, operations, and workforce development. A strategic cross-sector leader in online education and higher education innovation, she is passionate about driving student success, improving workforce outcomes, and shaping the future of learning through technology-driven solutions and transformative product development. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you, Michael. Happy to be here. So I'll tell you about the first one first. So the courageous conversations piece. So as all of us remember, during COVID, there was also some really complicated social pieces that were happening, right? Socially in our communities across the country, across the world. And that conflict, that social conflict and the complexities, the trauma, the disappointment, the fear, the inequity that came with a lot of what was happening then could not be separated from the lived experiences of the people that we work with, right? And I found myself supporting a very diverse team that was really struggling, sometimes very silently and sometimes very loudly, with what was happening in our local community and in communities across the world. And in a conversation that I'm never going to forget, where I was reminded that I might see things through a particular lens, and let's just call that lens white privilege, that I might see the world through biases, unconscious, right? I felt called to create a space amongst the people that I called friends and colleagues to talk about it. And I drew from some experience I had during my early teaching years when I was teaching 3rd grade in Colorado. I was a part of a group of teachers that helped to facilitate these workshops, these faculty workshops called Courageous Conversations About Race. And it draws from Glenn Singleton's work. And the intention of the work then, in these school districts were to help primarily white teachers have heightened awareness in their teaching practices and, in their lived experiences with their students' lived experiences in very diverse classrooms. And from that work, there are 4 agreements. And those agreements are to stay engaged, speak your truth, expect and accept non-closure, and to experience discomfort. The order of, I got them slightly out of order. It's stay engaged, speak your truth, experience discomfort, and expect and accept non-closure. And, in a moment I look back and I think like, it's kind of wild that we leaned into this together, but there were, I don't know, let's call it probably 50 team members, maybe a few less. That might be a little high, right? That were a part of my like direct kind of like responsibilities under my umbrella. And, even when we first started talking about doing this, it was like me with my like direct reports, like the 4 or 5 leaders on the team. And I brought this idea. I was like, what if, once a month we set aside an hour and we have a conversation. And it's very guided and it's very facilitated. And we create a space to have conversations about the things that are happening in the world because they're happening. And by pretending like they're not is not helping anybody, right? People are highly distracted in their work. They're, again, everyone was carrying like the weight of the world on their shoulders. And then you expect people to come to work and put a smile on their face and like just do the thing. Like it's, that's not how it works. And so I raised this with my leaders. I was like, what do you think if we do this? And Mike, I'll tell you, like literally every direct report I had was like, there's no way you can do that. You can't do this. We can't do this. Like, does HR know we're doing this? Is HR going to be there? Like this is the whole company doing this? Because we can't do this. This is not going to be a good idea. And I was like, I'll tell you what, it's like, I don't know, we're riding out into the frontier. I'll go first. And if this thing implodes, if this turns out to have been a terrible idea, it's my name on the line. I'm on the line. Nobody else is. It's me. So I'll go first. And so we started to do this work once a month, very guided. I mean, again, there was like Glenn Single, there's a whole framework around this, right? Like there was plenty to draw from in terms of like, how do you keep these kinds of conversations on the rails? And we did. And I believe, and if you were to talk to any of my colleagues or teammates who were a part of this work, we did it for 3 years, I think, like 3 straight years of like once a month committed to the work. The outcomes of that were just beyond your imagination in terms of how the culture of the team was strengthened. Because when you lean into these kinds of things, and you think about those 4 agreements, you think about staying engaged, speaking your truth, experiencing discomfort, and expecting and accepting non-closure. And then you think about any problem that could potentially pop up in the workplace. Anything where you're coming at it from 2 different angles or 5 different perspectives and you're storming and norming and all the things. There is nothing you can't get through. There's nothing you can't solve and that you can't find common ground on. If you have strengthened the muscle, if you've worked the muscle of those 4 agreements in relationship to topics that are really personal, right? Like where you're really challenged to like have to see the world through somebody else's lens and have to find compassion and have to find understanding and have to be courageous and brave. And again, like sticking to or saying like, this is my lived experience, but I hear your lived experience, right? And like that, it's complicated and messy and really beautiful. And I watched a group of people, 40, 50 some odd people, do this work with such commitment and such love. And then I watched them work together in the coming years on 1,000 different things, right? Like just all the day-to-day stuff, the big stuff, the little stuff. And there are still ties amongst that group of people that I don't think will ever be broken because of that work. And when you think about what that does for a culture, again, like you talk about culture building and team building, it's nothing like it in the world.